Can you hear me now? Aha, I'm so sorry. Thank you for letting me know. I just said a lot of things. All right, that's a bummer. All right, so we're talking about making a thing to control the time of day that would automatically in a game change from day to night. I talked about there are multiple different ways you'd want to do this. You could have a very simple setup with the sun and moon opposite. Minecraft does this, for example. A lot of games and TV shows just kind of pretend like the moon is always in the opposite of the sun. It's the thing you see at night. It's not really how it works, but for a game, it's fine. You'd want a semi-realistic thing where they have different periods. Sometimes they're up in the sky together, sometimes they're not, but that's all it does. And then the very realistic model where they don't follow the straight paths that they actually don't follow. You notice the sun, depending on the time of year, changes its path. The moon and Mars and some other bodies really have very non-straight paths in the sky. You can do all that stuff, and the mechanics of a game engine actually are pretty similar, or enable us to do very similar things to the orbital mechanics. You have parented rotations and positions and that sort of thing. You can use the same math to make it very realistic, and I think that's pretty cool, and people really like that kind of thing. I think I might make these separate templates. The fourth option that I didn't even write here is non-Earth, right? Some people want to make a game that has 4 moons or 3 suns or some crazy combination of things moving around, or maybe the red sun goes down and then the blue sun comes out, and suddenly your game color changes a lot. And I think that's a lot harder to generalize. We probably won't make that. But people would want that sort of thing, and they could adapt these. For these 3, though, we'll just go do them in order. You want a time multiplier. You want it to be able to not be real time. Sometimes you want it to go very fast, or every 2 hours, or every 15 minutes, like Minecraft. Or you could even have it be for some sort of universe simulator type thing. You could have it be going, 1 day is 10 seconds, and you get to see all the things fly around, and you get to see the different shapes, and it'd be kind of cool. Color tints, day and night. You want to tint the sky different colors. You see that when I put the sun down in the sky, and then I change the skylight to a dark blue, it looks kind of evening-ish. If I make the skylight white, it doesn't look right for evening. You gotta tint things. I believe in real life this is basically an artifact of the fact that the light has to go through more atmosphere and has scattering. It's the reason the sky is blue at all instead of black, in fact, is that the light scatters different amounts of different wavelengths. So, my approach to the coloring is to look at the skies that have already been made by artistic people and see what they chose, because they look a lot better, and we'll use those as the base values and try to interpolate between things. We might also just do a quick Google search. Maybe someone has some data we can use that says here's how the sky color depends on the time of day. All right, so the first thing we're going to do was on our list, simple moon and sun opposite. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is set this up as a thing that you replace your sky with, because it needs to control. It's easier to drag a template into your scene and delete other pieces than to drag a template in your scene and set up a bunch of references to things already in your scene. I've tried this pattern before, and it's pretty hard to follow. If you go into community content, you download some guy's thing and put it in your hierarchy, and then it's expecting a reference to your player settings or your skylight or your sunlight, a lot of people will not understand that. Even with a little bit of message, it's too much friction. You often drag it into your game and hit play, and it doesn't work, and you say, oh, it's just broken. People aren't going to spend much time to try to figure out how it works. So, just notice those beds. So we're going to have this be the whole thing all in one piece. So let's start with a group. I didn't call this thing. I've called it a different time of day here. This map is, my stream says daytime controller. That's probably a better name for it. Day cycle controller? Let's do that. All right. So it comes with the sky. This is not client context, but it should be. There's a question of, it's actually pretty important here, should this be synchronized between all the clients. Should every player see exactly the same thing? And I think that's pretty important. There's some people, sometimes when people make games, they tend to say, oh, this is just important for making some polish, it makes it look good or sound good, and they don't bother making it synchronized at all. And players will notice those things sometimes, and depending on what it is, it can be pretty frustrating. If you're making a shooter and one player has night and one player has day, that's not fair. It feels bad. And if players are talking to each other while they play, which happens more and more these days, they'll notice when things don't line up and it feels really bad. For a real life example, I played a lot of Overwatch when it came out, and in Overwatch, the characters talk to each other a lot, especially at the beginning when you're waiting for the round to start, and they have things that build a little backstory about them or quips, and they're all synchronized. When your character says something, all the people on your team hear the same thing, and people talked about that. I remember a single game where I had a Mei and a Junkrat on my team, who I believe are kind of in opposite factions. In the Junkrat's kind of an evil guy, and they really kind of had a rude exchange, and we were like, wow, that was kind of cold. And it was kind of interesting. The counter to that is Apex, which I really like the game, but it doesn't do this. And so when you're playing Apex Legends, very often your character says something funny or a certain line, and you comment on it, and your friends say, I don't know what you're talking about, because they got a different line. Picked 1 out of 5 randomly, and each person got a different line. In this case, it's pretty strong, right? The time of day needs to be synchronized, but luckily, we don't actually have to do networking to do that, because there are already networked values available that we can use, and that is what we are going to do. Okay, so I'm just actually going to replace that. I'm going to make the root of this thing a client context, because this entire thing needs to live on the client, as long as we have some synchronized data, which we do, and we'll get there later. All right, so it needs a script, day cycle controller client. Oh, I had another one from yesterday. Is there anything in the script? Nothing at all. Maybe we'll delete that script. That's a worse name. All right, we need the sun, which is the sunlight. So that controls the actual sun in the sky as well as the light it makes. We need the skylight object because we need to tint that. We're actually going to tint both of these, I think. The sky dome, you can do what you want with. There's an argument. Ooh, that is an effect. There's an argument that we should make that part of this because people might replace their sky with this. But at the same time, you can pick whatever one you want. So maybe we leave it there. We'll probably add some text to the description of the template to tell people which parts they need. We need a moon, because this is the basic one that has a sun and a moon, right? Simple moon and sun opposite. Yep. You might want one that doesn't even have the moon. People like the moon. They can delete the moon if they don't allow it. Moon. It's a good movie, by the way. All right, now we have a moon. I'm going to zero out the transform on these guys, so they're all in the same spot. Bring this up so I can see the arrows. Moon, where are you? This arrow is very hard to see. There it is. Okay. Sun and moon. We made it basic. We scaled it up huge yesterday. Hit save. Make it easier to see. Brightness. Can make this 20 probably. Yeah, okay. I don't know that the moon needs to be that bright, but it does seem pretty dim at 2. If we scale it down a little bit. Here's a question: if I take this entire thing and rotate it around, how bright is it? Oh, that doesn't seem right. Let's play. Trying to update itself. Okay, that seems okay. Video games at night are very rarely realistically dark. Occasionally single player games do it for an interesting mission or level. But in multiplayer, the level of darkness in real life is very dark. And if that's how your game looks at night, people can't see anything and it's not very fun. I played a couple games that were very dark and I found that it wasn't, I just wasn't interested in playing the game. It wasn't that it was, oh, look how scary or, realistic this is. Okay, so let's, oops, I didn't pull it back up in the air. All right, so we've got what we need. This is going to need reference to every piece of this. I don't know that I have a preferred order. I guess we'll go for alphabetized, which is, of course, the opposite of what I just did. The moon at the top. And this is going to have some properties on it. What did I say we needed? Time multiplier. So often with this kind of value, there's a lot of ways I could expose this. I can just call it a time multiplier. If you make it 1, it's real time. If you make it 5, it's 5 days per day for real day. If, you know, but that's kind of, people have to do some math and think about it. And really the question is, what does someone actually want to be inputting as their value here? And the answer is length of the day, I think. So I'm just going to call this day length, and maybe I'll even give the units right in it, because the default units for time in core is seconds, and that's not the number you want here. You know, maybe minutes, hours. Maybe I make this a string and make it read how that. This is more complicated than I thought. I think minutes is the right way to go, and let people, it kind of encourages them to make a quicker time to make your game more interesting. If you really want it to be realistic, 60 times 24, you can figure that out with the calculator. It's not too hard. It is 1440, I think. Yeah, nailed it. All right. That's not that crazy large a number, and if you really want it to go flying and be seconds, you can, I made it a float, you can type in, 0.1 or something here. The other value we need is the color tints. We will add those as we get to them. I'm not sure how we're going to set this up. If we're going to tint them exactly the same, what's going to make it look the best. We'll look at the colors that are already on the other skies and try to build from there. Maybe do a little Googling. So this guy needs reference to the root itself. Do I want to call this component root? Is this an official component? I don't know yet. It's more artistic than the most official components, but we'll call it component root anyway. Right. So we have this big block of custom properties. Got that guy. We're going to change the styling. I thought about updating how Core actually styles these so that they match the style I like. Oops. But I have not done that, and it might anger other people. That's not the script. Since this is client only, we can just run a tick function and update it constantly. It might be expensive to change the lighting every frame, and if that's the case, we'll just add a wait in here, task.wait 1.0 or something like that, change it once a second, or stagger them or something. We'll worry about that later. For now, we'll see how it looks, how it runs. All right, so the easy part of this is the rotation. So we're going to get, the way I want to start with this is a variable that tells us how far through the cycle we are. It is, let's say 0 at noon. I'll even add a count to explain my thinking here. Just picking an arbitrary time. T is 0 at noon and 1 at noon the next day. 5 is dusk, 0.5 is midnight, 0.75 is dawn. Okay, so it's just a single 0 to 1 value of which part of the day we're in. And we're going to use the real time, this wonderful function time that I use all the time. So this is where we're getting our synchronization from. Time, sure, that's another thing we probably want. Time is the time since the server started up and it's synchronized. All the clients have the same value, and you can use it to synchronize things in networking. And in this case, it means that server always will start at a certain time. a person may want their game to start. If their game has a 3-hour cycle, they might care when it starts. They might say, this needs to start at midnight, and then you run through, and then you get to, if you go fast enough, you get to daylight at a certain point or something. If someone might want it to start at a random time. If they want it to start at a random time, then we're going to be in maybe a little bit of trouble trying to get this to line up correctly. You might have to do something networked. But we will worry about that when we do. All right, so we'll add those later. We'll add a note for it. Random time start. And less hard than that is start time. Start T, I guess. Okay. So I believe we can just do this. Maybe it's more readable if we write it like that. Time is the number of seconds since the server started. We divide by 60, so number of minutes since the server started. Divide by the length of the day. The length of the day is 1, for example. Then we went from 0 to 1 in 1 minute. The length of the day is 10. It takes 10 minutes for us to get through that same exact cycle. Okay. So then, we're going to take the sunlight and set its rotation. I don't know that there's a good reason to pick one axis over another. This is where the very realistic version will care more about this sort of thing. You might have a north, but we might pick a, positive x is north, that kind of thing. In fact, realism. Hold on a minute here. I've already made this choice when I made the compass. If you guys have seen the compass. Let's see which direction we're facing is north. I don't know. It's wherever the moon is. And south is kind of near the sun, but not quite. So the moon is over there. That's north. That's the direction our spawn point is facing. Okay, so positive x is north. That's what I chose last time. And negative x. Why is the sun off to the side? Who did this? Let's see, if I reset the rotation of the sun, where did it go? All right, perfect. So we're rotating around the y-axis to go between x and z. That doesn't make any sense. We'll go for a little bit of realism here. On the Earth, the sun goes east to west, west to east. One of those two. Let's figure it out. Oh man, Core Live. I've heard of those guys. Thank you. I guess I could just look this up. I don't like doing that. In California, it is currently 7:30, and on the East Coast it is currently 10:30. I know that because I have a bunch of family over there. That means that their sun set earlier than ours, which meant it was going east to west. Yes, okay, that makes sense. I'm at least 80% sure. So we want this to go from east, over there, to west. So if let me flip that around again. Where is the sun? East. Oh, I see. It's the opposite direction. That's interesting. Oh, I see. The arrow is the direction that the light is going. And it starts going positive x. Okay. Let me get this visible. This widget visible. I'm ready to move. So we have to go from east to west. And we're going to do the exact same thing with the moon, only off by 180 degrees. Rotation. I've been trying to get in the habit of using the local space functions a lot more. It's very easy to just use world space functions basically everywhere. They usually do what you want. But not only are the local space functions just less text, but the parenting hierarchy kind of is there for a reason. If you don't want something to care about its parents transform, it probably shouldn't have that parent a lot of the time. And so if you, when I can, local space is generally a better pattern. I'm trying to do that more often and see where I run into problems. All right, so it's pointing, its default is that plus X is where the light is going, and negative X is where the light's coming from, where the sun actually is in the sky. And the default rotation, the XYZ componentized rotation, we're going to get this there, view, is Z first, then Y, then X. So we want to rotate around Z, negative 90, I believe. Or that's the third argument. Count this in here. Because this is, my old approach to rotations was try things and see what's right, and then fiddle numbers and add negative signs until it works. I started recently trying to actually learn the patterns that are available and found that it's a little bit of madness. This isn't even our doing, but at least I can make more reasonable guesses and save a little time. Z rotates around in the left-hand rule. X and Y rotate around the right-hand rule. It's not great. Again, that wasn't even our doing it. Literally every Unreal game has this behavior. But that's how it is. So we've got negative 90 around Z is going to put us in this right axis we want. So this is taking this guy and doing negative 90 around Z. Let me get to there. And then we're going to take Y and go negative. So X is 0. And Y is, this also doesn't have any offset, right? In real life, there's basically nowhere you can be where the, I don't think there's anywhere on the Earth, that's because the Earth is tilted 23 degrees or something, that there's nowhere that the moon actually, or the sun actually go straight overhead. They will touch straight overhead, but they will go at an angle the whole time. We'll do that with a more realistic example. I should just call this stream 3D math. That's what we end up doing a lot. But that is a lot of game design. So we're going from negative 90 is the 0 point for this. Negative 90 is when it's straight overhead. Then negative 180 is when we are when it is dusk. So negative 90 times T. And we don't have to care about which, like negative 90 and 270 give the exact same behavior. We don't need to care about which one we got. I think maybe that. So T is 0. We want this to be 1. I see. No, this is. I can do negative 360 here. So if T is 0, I want this to give us 90. So maybe I add a little bit. T is 0. We get 0.25 times 360 is negative 90. That's correct. If T is 1, we get the same behavior. If T is 1/2, 3/4 of this is negative 270. That's straight down. T is 1/4. We get 1/2 times this, 180. Okay, that should work. We're going to do the exact same thing. Come on, select the line. To the moon. Only instead of being 0.25, 0.75. Okay. And our day length in minutes is going to be 0.2. These should be flying. Where'd you go? Phew. The moon comes around, please. There it is. This is harder to see than I hoped. The moon is not updating in real time. That is unfortunate. The sun is moving. It's maybe more talking to the VFX guy. The moon seems to be static based on where the sun was when I started. Or I guess it's up to it's considering one of the position changes and not the other. Is the unfortunate part. If it was doing neither, I could put it in the right spot. If it was doing both, then it would work already. But if we look at the moon here in a second, sliver. And over there, yes, it doesn't notice that the sun is moving. That is unfortunate. All right, so we'll keep going with this. And I'll talk to our VFX guy and see if there's some trick I didn't know, because that's often how this goes. But for now, we have something semi-functional. Did I need anything? Okay, so the last thing we need here is to tint the colors, or to make it look better. That was pretty cool. The shadows changing is awesome, but it doesn't look like dawn or dusk, or night, really. Looks way too bright. So let us take our skies here. I want a template. Is that the thing I go for? Yeah, perfect. Core default, early morning. So there's early morning. That's one color scheme. It's going to yell at me for the other thing being here. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a template and just delete it out of the hierarchy. And in fact, get rid of this guy too. All right, so that is a pretty good color scheme for morning. We'll get that in a minute. Actually, let's go to now because we have one at a time. That's my getting tab. Colors. Morning. Sky dome. Wow, this has a lot of colors on it. If I control Z, nope, not you, that guy. If I get rid of this sky dome, how bad does it look? Okay, that still looks pretty morning. The question was, hi, talent selector. A talent selector is the thing I will be building after I'm done with this, hopefully tonight. I will start working on it. It is a very large undertaking. The idea is a tool for an RPG style game where players could select talents as they are progressing through the game, gaining levels or whatever skill, whatever allows them to make their character more powerful. But it would let you, as a creator, pick exactly what things you wanted players to have available to them. You want them to, at level 1, to have a choice of a thing that gives them more health or a thing that gives them a fancier sword. Level 3, they can get a thing that makes them run faster, and you could build all of these equipment that make all the templates, or make all the talents themselves, and then the talent selector would be a single thing you can drag in and put all them all into a big hierarchy and set it up. So this one requires this one's in a separate tree entirely. For the design of the game we're working on, it will have a feature where trees are available to players randomly. We might design 6 or 7 trees, and every time you play the game, you get 2 or 3 of them offered to you. So it's always a little bit different. You know, you have to build with what you have available. Right. So changing the sky dome here had a lot of colors on it. I was worried that was part of what made it look really morning-y, but if I used a different sky dome, the colors still look pretty good. This still looks pretty morning. So we're going to take the colors and environment fog. How morning does it look without that? Oh, not at all. Wow, that is really impactful. Maybe we need some environment fog. This looks okay. All right, so we have, can I copy this out to a text document? I probably can't, but I'll try. Nope. All right, so this orange here, if I drag it into the color picker, you see a bunch of values. Colors are really complicated. It sounds simple, sounds like RGB, but if you artists know this, they're really complicated. For a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that the color space available to a human eye and the color space a monitor can produce are not the same. The monitor can only produce a relatively small subset, like a third or a quarter of the colors you can see. They're also just not very linear. Our eyes have 3 different receptors that are not really evenly spaced around. You know, so something that's bright yellow, for example, looks a lot brighter than something that's bright blue, even though that's the same amount of a specific color. And they have these different color spaces here. I'm just going to copy down sRGB color code. That's the one that I like. It makes things look good. Or I guess I'd have to do a lot of research to be able to speak to this more. I think it makes the colors more evenly spread in a way. They, if you take your eyes and look across the middle of this thing, you notice that green looks like it's way wider than yellow. That it's not, you know, we didn't code this to have more green in it. It's just that's how your eyes work. This whole section that looks like the same color, it's not. Every one of those pixels is a little bit different than the last one. Same thing for, these ones are kind of middle-sized. Blue's a little bigger than teal and purple. And maybe you see a little differently. And look, orange is barely there at all. You don't even see a section that looks orange. I admit, orange is not one of the primary or secondary colors on a monitor, but you should still be able to see it at all. Anyway, we'll grab this color code. And then the sun disk color. How important is that? So if we were in the fog, it still looks a little bit morning. We get the sun disk color, make it white. That's okay. We'll make this simple for now. I don't think we need that. All right, and then, so that was sunlight, and skylight is barely changed. Interesting. Sun, skylight. All right. Oops, I didn't need to save that. Cancel. So we've got early morning. Let's try nighttime. Get rid of the sky dome again. Yep, still looks fine. You notice this is semi-dark, but not that dark. If I hit play, I can still see where I'm going. I could shoot another player or collect items or whatever this game wants me to do. Again, we got an environment fog. How does it look without that? A little bland. Maybe we'll go for the environment fog. Maybe this is something we should have. I just got the star dome. If I delete that, we should definitely have a star dome. I wonder if we can make the star dome how it would appear during the day. We will find out in a minute. All right, so we're gonna drag these two down here and leave those outside. And then our skylight and sunlight, the full cheese moon. How do I do this? So this is just pretty white. Maybe I should copy the intensity value. I should check that. So this is intensity 1. Or taking screenshots would be another way to do this. I'm getting a smile here. This is the sun. It's a moon. Maybe we can get the behavior we want by having 2 sunlights, but I don't think it lets me do that, right? Yeah, okay. Dang. So that was intensity 1. They all cast shadows, that's good. Drawing the sun, not so important if we get rid of the... It's making the... I guess they wanted it to be a moon here. So they made this discolor smaller, that's not important. And then the skylight itself, same deal. This is just pure white at 1 intensity. All right, let's go back to that morning sky. We don't need the sky dome again. We don't have 2 environment fogs. It doesn't like that. It's giving me all sorts of warnings. Okay, so here's the intensities on these guys. The sun is 3.5. Let's just add it to the same line. And the sky is 0.9. Okay, so the sun takes over most of it in the morning. We have morning, nighttime, and then your normal sunny day. Whimsical? That seems a little bit ridiculous. Paradise Planet, pretty nice. What's the default look like? Canaveral? These all seem about the same. We'll just start the default. Get the sky dome out of here. And then look at the sunlight. Okay, these are giving us some things to look at. So the light's almost the same color. Day. And the skylight itself. Wow, that is pretty bright. 3. And we don't have an evening one. Morning and evening look pretty similar, but not quite. Hello. And so we will be. Let's start with them being the same and see how it looks. This feels like the sort of thing that our eyes are used to. We've been looking at sunsets and sunrises our entire lives. So I'll make it, and we'll think it'll look terrible. Just immediately like, wow, that's just not what it looks like at all. So we'll find out. Let us, if we leave the environment fog in and the star dome. So the star dome should, visibility. Perfect, okay. So we definitely want that guy. We lost our controller. Where did I put that? Day cycle controller. It's gonna complain at me. So I'm gonna abandon template for this object, stick it in here. Instance, now I've got a star dome as well. We'll keep with the alphabetical, why not? And the environment fog, all of these are smart objects, and you can use, there's a single Lua call we can use to change any of these properties at runtime, and hopefully they work. Stick this guy in here too. And it's convenient that this happens to be before this in the alphabet, because then it goes to my my senses of wanting these in order. Environment fog. All right. So I'm gonna go back to here and nope, there. And paste this in here and figure out what I need. I had that one. I don't have that one. Who's got Chardom? Don't have that one. Okay. This will be a good starting point for the more advanced ones coming next. Spark, dome, dome, dome. Environment fog. So we rotated the moon and the sun. That worked. We have some colors. We want to try to adjust things based on this. I think that we should not touch the colors for the majority of the day. Well, actually, we're gonna go note cards here. Sorry. Almost done here. Basically, as the sun goes around in a circle, and that's the horizon in the middle, dawn and dusk should be relatively short, much smaller than day and night, and they should be biased towards when the sun is visible. If you've ever sat there and watched the sunset slowly, as soon as the sun is under the horizon, it's pretty dark, and it doesn't take long before it's real dark. And the same in the morning, it's just the opposite of that. But when the sun is kind of close to the horizon and coming down slowly, you get the very changing colors and all that stuff for quite a while beforehand. Based on just guessing what I've done here, so I'm gonna cut this up in degrees. I'm gonna say 90, 45. I'm gonna say these are 30 degrees above the horizon and 10 degrees below. We'll try that out. It might be horribly wrong. I could go to Google and get more data, but we're gonna try it. And maybe this is telling me that I should not use a value from 0 to 1, but should use number of degrees. That actually seems like not a bad idea. All right. Well, sun angle. This guy. That's the moon. Sun angle. That guy. Sure. We don't need the comment anymore. I mean, it's kind of useful, but this is going to be T and that's going to be that. So we're going to put sun angle here. And sun angle plus 180 here. Moon's always opposite. And then we have a number we can work with. I believe in this case, let's see, -90 was straight up. 0, negative 180 was dusk, negative 270 is midnight, negative 360. Maybe we should make these positives. And that's going the wrong way. We'll go with it. How it's set up, this works. Yep. Possibly event this the other way would be positive. So instead of rotating that way, rotate the other way. Then the negatives are really bugging me. I think if we do positives here, then we've got the opposite thing. We're going to start at, instead of starting at dawn, we're starting at dusk, but then we can go positive the way you want to. So 0 will be dusk, 90 will be midnight, 180 will be dawn again, and 270 will be daytime, which is okay. If we wanted to bias this number in a way that makes sense, we could add some numbers in here. Let me think about this a little bit. Zero, 90, 180, 270. What I would like is 0 to be noon. We had t set up before. So we're just going to say this is t times 90. And then down here, instead of adding 180 or 0, we will add 270 or 90. I suspect this will work. We're going to find out. It's pretty easy to test. All right, let's look east. All right, it's going from east to west. That's something. Wasn't this faster before? Yes, I made it 4 times too slow. All right, so t of 0 was supposed to be straight up, but then it was supposed to be t of 1 is a full day later. So I go to east, perfect. Start with the moon. So there. Here's the sun. It started the wrong way. I expected the sun to start straight up. Maybe it does. No, it doesn't. That didn't move at all. We have 2 suns. I see the problem here. Let's get rid of these guys. We got their data out of here. I've tricked myself. Time, well, being very useful. I talked about how useful it was earlier. In preview mode, it's time since you opened the editor, not time since the game preview session started. So we're basically just starting at random times. That's fine, as long as we know that's what it's doing, and not that we have a bug. Hopefully, the way I've written this would work out that in a slow time cycle, you know, full day or whatever, it would actually be noon when it goes straight up. One thing I didn't touch on that I should at least mention, when people exposing the time multiplier and the offset, if one wants real time, they want to match real time, not just be 24 hours, but noon at 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. or something. So we need to actually control this by real time, which we can do, but that is a thing we should at least talk about. There are several time functions that work with real time as opposed to just the game server time. All right, so we've got the moon and the sun. We got that. We want to configure all these other options to change colors based on day and based on time of day. So we're going to look at a few different values here. If sun angle what I want to do is say if sun angle is less than 60 or sun angle, that's wrong language, sun angle is greater than 300, then basically this is the during the day. It's the if it's 0 straight up and then less than 60, so 0 down to 60 is about here, and then all the way around the other side, we get 270, 300, and 360 up on the top. So this is during the day, except for we're just multiplying t by 360, so this is just going to be unbounded and get huge. That's not what we want. We want t to be a number between 0 and 1, so use the very convenient modulus operator, which, even more convenient, Lua supports this for non-integers. A lot of languages, because of how mathematicians define this, say it's an integer thing. If I do that divided by 1, I'm pretty sure this will just give me the fractional part. We're going to find out by printing it. And watch the log for a little bit. 1, 2, 0.3, 0.4. Since we get to 1, we're back to 0 again. Perfect. Did exactly what we wanted. And this is one of my favorite things about Lua, is it does this correctly. Certain languages, not pointing any fingers here, when you do a negative modulus to save computing, they actually just give you the negative of the answer. So -5 modulus 2 gives you -1. That's not how modulus works in math, and it's actually just really not very useful. Very often you care about which part of a... For example, if you had a big grid and you want to know where in a square someone is, if your grid goes into negative numbers, suddenly this doesn't work and you have to add an extra case for it. In our case, this works great. This should say daytime. All right, so during the day, we need to configure a bunch of things. Fog, intense opacity. Which one of these can I use to turn it off? Opacity works. Start, I don't know what that does. Interesting. Fall off. Yeah, that's configurable. So fog density or opacity. I wonder which one. Probably density would be the one that would make this not cost lots of CPU time computing fog you can't see. So the thing we're looking for here, look at our core API. Nope, the one below it. Okay, overview. Set smart. Found it. Set smart property. So fog, set smart property. Just string the name and the value. Very simple. Hopefully, I might have a space, and I don't remember exactly how this gets translated. Okay, it's during the day, no fog. We'll get errors if these aren't correct, so we'll just try things and see where it goes. What else do we need to configure? We need to do the fog for all the different parts of the day. Let's put this out while we're here. Like my comments to line up. So this is dusk. That's when the 30 to 10 degree thing that I mentioned before, I'm just guessing. I should also at least make one of these bounds be equal. Well, doesn't really matter. Sun's moving, floating point number is never going to happen, but we want to catch both cases in some way, some consistent manner. We could do the same bound in every one of them. We could do 2 bounds on some of them. Less than, greater than, and less than. So angle is, yeah, I'm gonna change my tune about this a little bit. This one's backwards because I could switch it around. That might be the way to make this at least look the same. In each case, the first one has an equal, the second one doesn't. So from 100, all the way to 0, 90, 100, all the way to 260 is night. Makes sense. Night's really long. Else, I'm not going to do an if. Just make a comment here because that's the only case left. Okay, so we've got four different cases. We're going to set the fog in each case. We're going to set some other things in each case based on what we saw in the other things. I believe the fog was there for night and dusk, so maybe we need it for all of them. Maybe we should have thought about this a little more before I deleted everything else. Let us find our sky nighttime. It has environment fog with these settings on it. What's our fog look like? 2, half, 0, half. That's what it's like. Okay. So all we do for night is set it to 2. All right, for dawn and dusk. That was early morning that I was basing this off of. Okay, so it's also 2, but the other properties are different. So we will be able to, I'll start writing this out over and over, a bunch, and then we'll figure out as we go how we actually want this to, write this in an efficient way. So for these ones, we've got 3 other properties. Let's see, fall off. Just copy these values. Start. And opacity, was that different than the one we had? Yes, it was. Now, the way I'm writing this right now, it's not going to alert between the two. It's going to just very abruptly snap. That's I want to make sure that works first before I worry about the other cases we'd want to do. So at night, you want it to be to 0.5, 0, and 0.5. Is opacity really 2 on this one? No, it was 1. And during the day, we're turning it off, so we don't care about the other properties because they're not going to. We could also be more efficient. We'll worry about this a little bit later, and watch these know that these properties are going to be the same when we get here. It's always going forward, so we don't need to set them. But because we're going to be lerping them anyway, that's probably not true. So this is our fog settings. So that one's all right. All right. Then we needed to do something with the star dome. We want it to be visible during the night and not during the day. Very simple. And star visibility. Doing these are ones first, then we're doing the colors. So during the daytime, star dome, smart property, star visibility. And I'm going to set this to half at dawn and dusk and 1 during the night. Okay. And then we have the moon and the sunlight. So we're rotating them. And the skylight and the sunlight. The moon doesn't have brightness. It just has the color of the actual moon itself, which I think we can just leave. It tends to try to do the right thing. There maybe is an option to turn that off. Moon rotation, use sun direction. Aha! Look at that. This guy's a genius. I can do this manually and fix my problems. How? I can take this and put values in here. Look at this nonsense. Okay, so the reason that sometimes I was like, oh, is this a rotation? Like I just type in numbers and get random values, and you notice it's not really changing much. This is a vector. The VFX type stuff doesn't like rotations very much, doesn't use them very much. If I set this 0, it might do something horrible. It disappeared. Okay. If I set it to 1y, it goes on the left side, -1's on the right side. Set it to 1x, it's in the front, -1 is behind. And if I rotate the moon around, I'm curious if this is local space or world space. I'd like to find out. Okay, it is world space. If you see this, it became less visible when I got way down in the sky. Yep, okay. So I need to constantly be setting that. Perfect. Moon set smart property. Light direction. Needs a vector. We want a unit vector in the direction of the sun, presumably. So currently positive x. Positive x is towards the moon. Negative x is going to make it invisible. Yeah, so we want a vector pointing at from the sun to the moon. And in our case, we decided that was positive y to z to negative y to negative z. Positive y, positive z, negative y, negative z. Where positive z is our 0 point. What is the most efficient way to write this? I can make a vector and use cosine and sine. I can probably use some operators on the things we already have. The sun angle we got here, t equals, sun angle of 0 corresponds to straight overhead, right? So that's positive z. Let's just write it in a way that works. Positive, so this, for the y component, we start at 0 and go negative. That's the opposite of a sine. Sucks. There's a lot of stuff to write. And for the z component, it starts at positive and then goes, it starts at positive, which is all you need to know. It's mapped by cosine. How many parens do we need here? A lot of parens. I missed one here. One too many there. Alright. Like I said, this is not the most efficient way to do this, but it would work. We'll probably replace that with a rotation times a vector or something like that. Let's say. I know I can make a quaternion out of a axis and a rotation value, which would get us what we need, but then casting that to a rotation and then multiply by vectors a lot. Can I rotate a vector? No, I can, yeah, I can make a set of rotation. Let's do this. Rotation.new. So it goes from y to z. So it's around the x-axis and not around the y or z axis at all. That's all we need for a rotation. So it is sun angle is 0.0, 0.0. And then we multiply this by up, I think, because that's the, when sun angle is 0, then we want it to go up. So that might just be the same thing. Let's hope. That's much more readable. All right, so our moon's going to look correct. It's always going to be full because that's what happens when the sun and moon are opposite. If you've played a whole lot of Minecraft, the moon goes through phases because it looks cool. It's never based on the sun's direction. We could do something like that, but here we're just going to make it full all the time. We got the star dome getting visible and invisible. We've got the environment fog. We need to do something to this coloring. We have this nice color values over here. Maybe setting this way wasn't the right way to do this because that's not the API we have. Let's look at what our sunlight and starlight look like. Do we have a... Okay, we have morning, night, day. We use the same thing for both morning and evening. So sunlight comes last. Set smart property. I'm hoping, my hope here while I'm writing a bunch of text and repetitive stuff is that this is going to end up looking really cool. The sunlight smart property is light color. We don't need advanced settings anymore. There's a lot of advanced settings, man. I wonder if any of these are customized for this case. I bet they are. Light color. Color.u. Alright, so color type. And it has a new that takes an RGB. You can give it a vector. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to give you those exact values I wrote down before. So we're going to do a little bit of custom stuff here. Just to say we're going to take the value, we're going to look at the values again and just take them out of the sun. And we're also going to set the intensity of this. So 1 for the light color, 1 for intensity. That one I can do. Intensity started at 3.5. And then 1, and then 3.5. So it's 3.5 most of the time. And at night, it is 1.0. Okay. And the colors, how do we get these things back out of this? Sunlight, so we're starting on day here. So this color, we want RGB, there it is. I'm just gonna get rid of that guy for now. And write down 0.96, close enough. 0.74. That's our daytime value. Then we had our early morning value. Something like there. 0.9, 0.3, 0.0. That is very not blue. Is one thing to check here is these colors overdriven. I think it would reflect, but I am not sure. Yes, okay, it would actually show up in these values. So we didn't need that anymore. Sunlight, does this have any? Okay, check there wasn't any alpha or anything. Nighttime color, sunlight. Bluish, makes sense. 0.8, 1.0, okay. And we're gonna copy this one again down to the last for now. I suspect that when we actually run this, you will see that it looks not right to our eyes because the dawn and dusk do not actually look the same on Earth. But we'll find out. The last thing we need to do is the moon. So the same thing as the sunlight. I believe the moon has the exact same properties, right? Or no, sorry, the skylight, not the moon. Intensity and tint color, not light color. Okay. So we'll take this, copy it up here, make it skylight, and make this a tint color. And then we'll look at our other document. During the day, the intensity was 3. Not that one, this one. Down here. During the night, the intensity is 1. And during the morning and evening, the intensity is 0.9. That is not very bright. This feels like the sort of thing that someone might want to configure a whole lot, and I bet someone artistic will come in here and say, man, this is really cool that it does this, but your values suck, and change all these numbers and make it look way better. That would be really cool. I've got a good starting point, and the person who made these skies is much more artistic than me and has picked very good values already. And all we need, we're going to close that because all we need left is the colors for this. So the tint color for the skylight right here, just flat 1. Okay, that's easy. So that was the day one. Skylight set color. We don't even need color.new. We can do color.white. That is already defined. That's what that is. Our nighttime skylight. Still white. Man, okay. Early morning. Skylight. Not white. Alright, so for the nighttime, we're going to do that. For the others, 1.0, 0.81, just rounding a little bit, 0.56. Copy this over here. I think we've got all the things we need for the script to snap between the different cycles. We're saying 2 properties on 2 things, 1 property on 2 things. Watch properties in the fog sometimes. This might look horrible. Some of these things being snapped large amounts might do strange things, but we're going to take a look. So we're going to delete the other sky so it doesn't complain horribly. Oh, we actually have... Okay. Sky dome didn't matter. Then we got night. It's dark. I guess over there it's going to snap. There's dawn. There's day. Dusk in a second. Boop. It's not too bad. This is pretty cool. When this alerts, it's going to look a lot better. This is way cooler than I thought. You get sun lerping a little bit from the shadows changing angles. Cool. All right. So the trick is, where should it lerp? Should it be just in that dawn and dusk range? Probably. We could do it time-based. If your day and night cycle is this fast, it might look really bad. But if your day and night cycle is this fast, I don't know what you're expecting. You've seen those, sped up graphics of the clouds moving around the Earth or whatever, and they look kind of crazy because it's very fast. So I think what we want to do here is pick a midpoint, right? So our previous diagram, we've got 30 degrees above and 10 degrees below. So we're going to pick that middle point and say that's, for the top half, we've lerped from the day to that value, and for the bottom half, we've lerped from that value to night. And basically don't have at no point during dawn or dusk does it stop changing, right? You don't hit a 10-minute stretch where it's like, this is exactly what dawn looks like, and then it goes back to changing. I mean, really, that never happens at all, but our experience during the middle of the day doesn't change that rapidly, or during the middle of the night. You've got, depending on where you live and what time of year it is, it could be 6 or 8 hours where it's black. There's some stars, and not much else is going on. All right. So in here, we have sun angle. Let's put this into 2 categories. It's greater than 80, then else and okay. I'm actually gonna do this less than because I want it to be in order in this function. And 60 to 80 is the one that we're going from daytime to dusk, right? Yes. And 80 to 100 is when we're going to night, so they'll be in order. A new t. I'm going to kill this t up here, just pretend it doesn't exist. So let me take a slight tangent on a rant. Almost every programming language allows you to declare multiple variables with the same name in the same scope, as long as one of them is more local than the other. And yet, no programmer I know has ever intentionally done this. This feature has got to go. It is my rant. I don't understand why that exists, why every language supports this. It's always a mistake. All right, so in this case, we're looking for one or the other. Here's our start values or end values. We're just going to make liberal use of the core math.lerp function, which is a linear interpolation. You give it a start value and an end value and a t. If it's 0, it gives you the one end. If it's 1, it gives you the other end. If you pick any number between, it just linearly gives you a number between. So in this case, we know we're between 60 and 80. So t is sun angle minus 60 divided by 20 with some parentheses around it. So if sun angle is 60, then this becomes 0, and this becomes 0. If sun angle is 80, then this is 20 divided by 20 is 1. Admittedly, it can't quite be 80. It could be 0.999. That's fine. And 60 is day, 20 and 80 is night or dusk. So we take, you know what? Yeah, we take this big chunk of things and put them in here. Like I said before, at the end of this, we can make this a lot more efficient. Every one of these values. Let me make this window wider before I make unreadable code. For math.lerp. It's going to look just like this. We're going to take the value from up here and put it in here. There are some utilities. If you want to do this sort of thing yourself, you're trying to make some smart properties change over time, you're trying to do something cool. If you've played Core Royale and you've gone into the Mystery Forest, I think it's called, and you see all the trees start glowing as you get there, that's a lerp over time of a VFX. This is a lot of scripting. You don't need to do that. There are tools in here. I think they're in-game components already. Let's find out. Smart. Lerp smart property. These are great. You can put this in here and say, I want to give it a VFX object. I want to lerp the smart property. I want to start at this value, go to this value. I want to take this long. All the kind of things you might want to do. There's this whole system of these and a couple others that you can hook up to listen to events and fire events. So you can trigger whole sequences. You say when you enter the dungeon, it lights the torch slowly, and then, you know, makes a sound, and then does something else, and give them delays, make them random. You can have a thing that, you know, sporadically gets brighter and darker. In our case, we're just going to do this a lot. So lerp only knows how to do certain values. I believe, what else? Color has its own lerp function, and I'm going to find out that I just maybe use lerp backwards. From to progress, same thing. In HSV space, that's pretty good. It'll make it look a little cleaner. And then core math way down here, lerp from TSB to third argument. Okay, so that's for numbers. That gives it everything we need here. Admittedly, if you're doing vectors actually have a lerp. Some things might not have lerps, you might write them yourself. Here, everything we need, we've got. So we're going to just make a lot of the same code. I'm going to paste this in front of everything and then with the values in it. So the value that I put there should be the second value every time. Copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Hope I don't mess up. All right, and then the first value in each case should be the value up here. So the intensity, so the environment fog, maybe we do need to set the other things. I don't know what that would even, we'll worry about that in a minute. Intensity 3.0, tint color, white. We didn't do the color yet. Star visibility. Oh, I just overrode the wrong number. 3.0. Star visibility 0. Yep, you can't see the stars during the day. Makes sense. You could turn that to 0.1 or something, but we'll leave it at 0. The intensity is 3.5. That hasn't changed. In fact, we can just not even make alert for that. Ideally, if you wanted someone to be able to configure these settings, you could do this in a lot of ways. You can have a bunch of smart properties on the template itself and actually define these all as variables. You have the big brick of variables at the top. And that might be where we end up going with this. I mentioned that we could go to these, start this stream idea document where I had all these different versions and said we should totally do this, and we're halfway through the first one still. So this is how this goes. But you know, if I wanted to be able to set these to different values, I might want this to actually lerp. In fact, let's leave it like this, even though the values are the same, and this will never do anything. All right, colors. So we're going to do color.lerp. Actually, let's color.lerp, color.white, that guy, and then T, and then there's a second close for it, I think. Correct. And then down here, same deal, something like that, but it's not actually white. I'll fix that in a minute. That's at the end. So this should be this color. All right, we're like 1/4 complete with this adventure. Thanks for hanging out. We've got color lerps, we've got core math lerps, you've got lerps all over. All right, the next section, really more than 1/4 complete because this one's gonna be almost the same, just flipped around. So now we know it's between 80 and 100. And since it's increasing, t we're going to do it the exact same way. This time instead of minus 60, it's minus 80. And then we're going to do these the other way. So the values that they had before are the starting points, and the nighttime values are the ending points. I realize this is a little tedious. I'm just setting these to match. So none of these do anything at all. 0.5, 0.5 is still there. And for the colors, okay. So this is going to do nothing because it's all the same. We need the nighttime values in here. So fog density stays at 2. Again, I'm going to leave that there even though it doesn't do anything. Fall goes up. Start goes down. Opacity goes down. Intensity up a little bit. Tint color goes to white again. Visibility all the way up to 1. That makes sense. Intensity goes way down on that brightness of the sunlight. And the light color becomes a new color. Right. This is mostly investigation to how good it looks. Cleaning this up and making this more usable is tedious, but not that hard. It's something we could do. For instance, if this is the only time when it's lerping, we might not even need these other sections because they'll just be left with whatever values they have. You could even just calculate t every frame as a lerp value between night and day, or between night and dawn and day, and just plug it in. That's assuming dawn and dusk are still the same. They might not be. You could just say, is it? We could pick t values based on. We're going to do this. We're going to make a note, and we're going to do this later. Time multiplier, color tint, start t. We haven't done that yet. Clean up code a bit. Okay. So that should work for one of the halves. Let's test it before we go doing a bunch more coding. So we start at night, and then it's going to snap. And then over here is not going to snap. That did not snap. Snap, snap. Need a way to slow this down a little bit. Well, that looks pretty good. So we're going to take this huge block of text, and we know that we just copied all the values down here, right? We didn't have a separate dawn and dusk, so I'm just going to clobber it. And it's going to do basically the same thing. We're going to do it in the opposite order because it's going the opposite direction, so we just invert this. And then for t, so we're going from 260 up to 300. So if it's less than 260, less than 280, sorry, then we do the same thing, minus 260, otherwise minus 280. This is from 260 to 280, this is from 280 to 300, and this is probably backwards. Let's see. That doesn't matter. Yes, so I'm going to be just switching the order of all these. I could invert t. That feels wrong to me in that if someone's reading this trying to understand what it does, is if I'm consistent, t always goes forward in time. That's nice to understand. If I just flipped it to be convenient and not have to type a bunch of stuff, then it's going to make someone real confused. And most of these values are not that hard to change. Tint color. Flip that around. 0.0, 0.5. 3.5. These colors. Right, and same deal here. This is going from these values I just lerped to up to the daytime values. Ah, yes, if I'm clever and, oh, no, I messed it up. If I'm clever and copy the exact right section, then I can just copy paste and I'll have to fix the other half of it. That is convenient. Okay. Hopefully this makes the whole thing smooth day and night. We're starting day this time. Nighttime. Moon's not updating its angle. Did I even set that code? I think I did, right? That is not doing that. Oh, maybe I did it backwards. Yeah, that seems like a bug. So see, it's full moon, and then new moon, and then full moon. I'll watch one more thing, but I'm going to fix that angle in a second. When the sun comes up over the horizon, I saw a little bit of snap, and I'm wondering if I missed something. Right there. It'd be more obvious if I slowed down a little bit. Might be when I turn the fog off. I did lerp it down to 0, right? We can debug a little bit. First, the light direction. Looks like I rotated this the wrong way. We can try by just putting a negative sign there and see what the moon looks like. Let's try that. Can we even see the moon? Oh, well, there's the sun. There's no moon. That's no moon. Alright, so that is always wrong. That's improvement, actually. We just need the opposite of that. Perfect. So we'll multiply it by a negative vector up. Negative angle, negative vector up, sure. Moon. Full moon, full moon, full... Oh, man. It even has different texture on it. How cool. So the last thing I want to do is slow this down. The next thing I want to do, there's many things I want to do. Slow this down a whole lot, and I'm going to set this, I'm just going to take out the third person camera settings entirely, and go for first person, so that my player is not in the way of me trying to see this. Full screen. Where's my moon? Hello, moon. Can I break it again? Oh, it's slow, of course. Astronomy game coming up. So when it gets 10 degrees above the horizon, it should start to change. That fog is a little bit jarring. So one of the things that we didn't touch was the ring around the sun, and that seems okay. It doesn't seem too far off. Wonder if we set the daytime value of the intensity of the fog to 0.1 instead of 0, it'll be a lot better. I think that's what's happening here. Where's the sun? It's coming. 1, 2, pause. Okay. River fog, density to 0. And if I try to do it next time around, if I do it right before it does that, it's going to be just a minute here. We will see if that's actually the property changing. I guess that would be the same time for all the pieces. And maybe if we lerp several of the pieces down to 0, that'll look better. That might be a better way to do that. For our realistic space sim, or, solar system, we could have the moon doing its rotation as well. I believe that was one of the options in the advanced settings. East. 4 disappears this time. Pause. Yep, 0.5. 0.16, okay. So as it snaps down. Yep. Let's try lerping all the properties on the fog, or a couple of them at least. So we do the start, the opacity. Oh, I see. We actually are lerping other properties, but not setting them during the day. Interesting. Why are we doing that? We're lerping them all down to... Oh, I see. So we're actually snapping here. This is actually the problem. Because when it gets to day, I guess we're not setting them. This is where I have question marks over my head. So when it lerps down here, this is the last case, it lerps all these fog settings down to 0. And then it comes up here, and we don't set any of the settings, but they're already lerped down to 0. We could set them all. I don't think it'll change anything. If we just paste this in here, and just put a flat 0 on all these. Maybe we don't want to lerp some of these. Maybe we should leave some of them the same and only lerp, a couple of them. I'll make it faster again. In minutes, 0.2. Yield. Pretty jarring. So that is 12 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Sounds about right. Boop. Alright. So we're going to sanity check here. Put some prints in here, make sure at least it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Print day. Print. One print in all 6 cases. 8 cases? 6 cases. I was going to say day to dusk. Dusk. And we're going to add T in there. That T's got to be defined. Reprint T. Dusk to night. Night. Night to dawn. Dawn to day. Okay, so we're just gonna watch T and see if this actually behaves in a sensible way. I gotta pause it after one of the transitions. That's way too many prints. Okay. So it went from day to dusk, 0, increasing, got to about 1. Dusk to night, 0, increasing, got to about 1. Great. Night. This is where we saw the jarring transition. Okay. Night to dawn, increasing to about 1. Dawn to day, about 1. Okay, so that did what we expected. Another option here. I'm going to try one more thing and then not worry about it, because it's not that, it's kind of minor, or it's kind of jarring, but not really that bad. Is instead of trying to set these other properties to 0 and lerping them, I'm just not going to touch them at all. I think we'll just touch density. So in the cases of daytime to dusk, and dawn to daytime, with other properties, the value is going to be the same value it was in the dawn and dusk cases. Just like that. 1 point, oh, like an old number. So it just stays the same, and down here, really hoping it's actually the fog making this problem, because I might be barking up the wrong tree. Down here, same deal. We can lerp the density, but not the other properties. We'll just leave them there. Density will make it go away. All right. Much better. You see that? Doesn't look like anything bad. Like it looks like a nice clear day, but here it comes, and no snap. Great. All right. I like this a lot. This seems pretty simple. The whole brick of properties hard-coded. I don't know if someone grabs this thing and wants to configure it, if having 50 properties here is going to make that any more approachable. Probably is going to be a lot scarier. They might start looking at these things and hope and change their settings, hoping that does something. Unfortunately, it won't. It's kind of how these things work. But they could, we could define some things in here. So I had said, clean up code a bit. We've got color tints and the time multiplier. Let's make this one to the point where I'm happy to publish it and call it a day. So one way to do this that saves us a lot of trouble is to cut this into, instead of 6 sections, we can cut it into 4 sections. We just need the lerp sections. So I'm gonna basically, I'm show you what I'm thinking here. Let me find a note card. Kind of like I drew a cat. The thing on the bottom is night, the thing on the top is day, and the other two are dawn and dusk, where the top half is lerping through to day, and the bottom half is lerping to night. What I can do is cut this into 4 sections, which is almost exactly the same thing, but I'm going to use a colored Sharpie over here so I can draw on the same diagram. I have lots of colored Sharpies. This is great. Finally a use for these. Been sitting on my desk for years. Sure. Her. Here we go. 4 sections, and they're split the same. Oh, I messed up the one side. Sorry. The orange and green are not right. It should be up a little bit, but they split the same middle of dusk and middle of dawn period, but then they just eat up the whole day and night. And so we don't need these cases at the beginning and the end at all. Just gonna delete them. Be in the middle. And instead, I'm going to pick the value of t, and based on where you are at that time, and clamp it. So for the entire daytime, t is 0 or 1, and the entire nighttime is 0 or 1. And then the lerps still happen, but it still just gives you the same value out. This will make the code a little bit lighter weight. I think that's a good thing. So if we are, case 1, sun angle is always 0 to 359, right? Great. Nope, that works in order. I bet mod is the same. I guess it's been working so far. We'll leave that. So our sun angle is less than 80 is the first case. So right here. So we'll just cut out this whole section. Bam, less than 80. All right. So now it can be anywhere down to 0. So if I just do minus 60 divided by 20, this is, it can be negative. That's not what we want. So we want core math.clamp. I'm going to bring that up. Core math. Actually, I don't want core math.clamp, but I'm going to look at it anyway, just so you know what it does. You give it a value, you give it a lower and an upper, and if it is higher than the upper, it becomes the upper. It's lower than the lower, it gives you the lower. It clamps it into a range. We don't need that because we only have one. We only care about one side. We know that this cannot be greater than 1 because the highest value it can have is 80. 80 minus 60, or 80 minus 60 is 20. Can't be that. Math.max is what I want. The default Lua function. And basically I'm saying this can't be negative. If it's negative, give us 0. So in all the cases where something goes less than 60, where this would be negative, we get 0. 0 gives us the daytime values. That's it. We're done. Else, if sun angle is less than 100. No, not 100. 180. So this is the other case. We're going all the way from 80, which is where we the middle of our dusk, all the way to the middle of the night. And this could be, it's got to be at least 80, so this can't be negative, but it could be a lot greater than 1. And we don't want that, so math.min, this and 1. And it'll give us the night values. All right, then we're going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to cut it like that, I think will give us what I want. So if sun angle is less than 280, which is the other middle case, then if it's, this is at most could be 1, same, but it could be a lot less, it could be negative. So we give it this treatment, and this one all the way up to 360 could be very large, greater than 1. And we'll get some comments. Day, noon until mid-dusk. Mid-dusk until midnight. Midnight. Midnight until mid-dawn. And mid-dawn until noon. Okay. A little simpler to read. Less text. Hopefully I didn't break it horribly. Where's my moon? And it seems to work. Great. Not you. Alright, so this is somewhat readable. I think that for the sake of one of the programming lessons that is elementary, that every undergrad and even many high schoolers who've learned some programming will be very fanatical about, is never use magic numbers. This goes along with never use global variables and a bunch of other things. I have strong feelings about some of these, which I'm sure to recant later, but this one makes a lot of sense. A magic number is a number that's in the middle of your code. And the reason you never use magic numbers is because if they are the same number in multiple places and you want to change it, you've given yourself a trap. You could change it in one place and not the other and get very strange behavior, especially if it's like the size of an array. If you're just writing some scrappy code and your array is 10 elements large and later you want to make it 20 and you make it only one of this, you change the size of the array, but you don't change where you iterate through it, you get very weird behavior. And we've just done that. 3000 shows up in many places. That's bad. So we're going to make these constants up here so that you could easily read through and say, here's what I want to change. So, day, dusk, night, dawn. In that order. Local, day, I want a prefix or postfix. Day, fog, density. Local, day, fog, fall off. 2, day, fog, start. Yes, I realize that this is going to be kind of tedious, but hopefully it will only take 20 minutes or so. Day, skylight, intensity. a skylight tint color. This color dot new. It also will make the code below a lot more readable, I think. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be a block of capitalized letters. Okay, star dome visibility. Sunlight intensity. You could argue that this should say stardom star visibility, but I think that makes this variable too long and doesn't actually add anything. 5, a sunlight color. Same deal here, it's the same one twice in a row. That guy. Okay. I'm going to use search in place to continue with this. In the meantime, I'm going to answer some questions here. Is this game limited to FPS games, or can you make a full-fledged MMO with this? Or do they just support the prefabs to only include FPS elements? Core can make almost every type of game you would want. There are certain limitations, and many of them are things we have not gotten to, but very much intend to do. So I am not worried about the future of, action RPGs or that sort of thing. It's like, yeah, it'd be a little bit difficult now, but it'll be soon, and there'll be lots of things you can make it very much happen. The things I would be most worried about, and they're like really very few and far between. I could make all sorts of crazy wild things. If you just look at if you go make an account and go to coregames.com and look at the games that exist, there are a lot of things that are not FPSs in there. There's a top-down game where you shoot boats at each other. There's puzzle games. There's jumping games. There's adventures, and someone is trying to make an MMO out of this. The biggest limitation really about specifically an MMO is that it's hard to get that many players in the same place without a very different networking model. And that's really the crux of the things that are most limited, is that the networking model can get in your way. But you can do things that are very MMO-like. You can make a game where you can have up to, currently 16 players together in a dungeon together. You could do all the dungeon mechanics an MMO has, no problem there. That would be pretty easy, actually. A lot of people who work on Core have strong backgrounds in MMOs. I included. I played WoW for many, many years. You could make a future, near future feature coming is the ability to, I guess I should prefix this with probably coming. We intend to add it. I hope that would come soon. There may always be issues and problems, but as a goal is the ability to have data stored with your character between games. So you could level up your character, collect some gear, have an inventory, and you could save that into a table in Lua. And then when you join a different game, which is simply a different zone in the same world, it would load that same data and put it back, put you back together, give you all your armor and your level and all that. And so you could make, Kalimdor and have all the different pieces of Kalimdor as different games that all share the same logic by just having a bunch of different games on your page, and we already have the support to portal between games, as long as you only have 16 people at a time in each instance, each 16 people together in zone number 1, 16 people together in number 2, and that limit is likely to increase as well. We'd very much like to. 16 is pretty limiting, but that is really very close to the MMO experience. The thing that you're missing is that you can't have 100 people together standing in a big pile, breaking the servers for the opening of AQ or something. But that, there exist very successful MMOs on the market that also have this limitation. I think Guild Wars, for example, you basically don't ever have a large number of players together, but it still feels very MMO-like. And that is, honestly, when I've talked to my family and that sort of thing, they say, what can't you make? That is like the one or two. I have a very, very short list of things you can't make. And that's still like, I am intending to use this to make an MMO. I very much like that. The dungeon mechanics are my favorite part of the game. I was very much into Mythic Plus dungeons. So we can, that's only 5 people. No problem. You can do really complicated, intense things there, and it would very much work. Absolutely. Right. So I say you can have 16 people. You can have 16 people, and then another 16 people on a different server, and another 16 people on a different server. That's all built in already. Works. As many people as want to play your game at a time, no problem. And some of the people I play MMOs with for a long time felt like the other players were very much a hindrance to their enjoyment. I had one specific guy who very much liked to play a solo MMO, and A couple other people who said if I just had dungeons and nothing else, this would be great. I only want 5 people. As soon as you have 10 or 20 people, I hate it. And I understand that. Makes a lot of sense. That being said, I led a raid guild for a while, so I dealt with more than 5 people. I hope that answers your question. The next thing I will be working on in my future streams, that was on the title of the stream, but given our progression so far tonight and making something work pretty complicated, I probably won't do it tonight, is to build a talent calculator, which will be used for calculator's not the right word, a talent selector, which will be used for an RPG-like game. It's somewhat like an RTS style custom game, but it has a lot of the same elements, and if I made an MMO, I would use the exact same talent selector. It is modeled off of, or similar to things I've used in, Diablo 2 or WoW. All right. So those, we're just going to copy, paste, do a little bit of search and replace here. Day turns into dusk. Place all, oops, undo, please. Highlight matches in selection. That's the one I want. Thank you. All right. Day turns into night. I messed up again. Why is that not the default? Sublime, please. Day turns into, that's just gonna kill me one of these days. Dawn. Okay. Those values are all wrong. So noon till mid-dusk. So dusk is the second value here. So it's 2.2, 3001.9 for skylight intensity. Tint color. Did I have a white at the top? I didn't. I messed that up. Tint color should have been white in the first one. And then 0 to 0.5. 3.5 doesn't change, and then this guy for the color, the bottom. Oops. Alright, so that looks correct. Pretty sure I got day and dusk correctly. We're going to copy all these values, set them all, and then hit play and hope it looks the same. Alright. Night. Night is the second value down here. So this was noon till mid-dusk. Did I do fog density? I did, okay. So night, I should just take a screenshot of this or something. Or just copy it up. That's probably a way to have a second copy of Sublime over here. It's probably a way to have 2 views of the same file, but I don't know that offhand, so I'll simply do this. I missed. Okay, so night is the second value here. 2.0 for fog density, 0.5, 0. Different fog at night. 0.5. Skylight intensity 1.0. 1.0, stars are visible, 1.0, and we gotta find the colors over here. White, again, and this guy. And the real saving point here that I could have done this a lot better is that these ones down here are the same as these ones. We're gonna copy paste again and do a quick text replace. Dusk to dawn in selection. Place all, okay. Perfect. So now all we have to do is plop all these values into this giant function, and this should be functional. Another note to your question is that some of our sample games are FPSs. We're kind of biased that way, and that is mostly because this is what the engine excels at in the first place, and so it's easy to make things that look a lot better in that range, but we very much want to, we want all the other things to work. That's why we made some example games that are very different. And me personally, that's one of my goals working at Manticore at all is like, I want to make every sort of game viable. I don't want you to try to make a a puzzle game or something and be like, man, this is really, I'm working around what's supposed to be there, and this is frustrating. I want it to be like, yep, all the features I need are there. We've done a lot of work in that regard, and we'll do more. All the things that get in the way, I watch feedback constantly. It's like, what are people running into? What can we improve? All right, so day fog density. This is going to be a little bit more. I'm just going to make this wider. Day fog density goes there and there. Every one of these goes 2 places. Day fog fall off goes there and there. Day fog start. A little bit of tedium. Then we will publish this and start making cool other things. Fog opacity. Yep, these line up so far. Skylight intensity. Skylight tint color. I suspect that I am making this less readable, but easier to configure if you wanted. Stardome visibility. Sunlight intensity. And sunlight color. That is slightly the worst of the bunch because we have to go from the very top to the very bottom. Dusk fog density. So dusk is the end of this one, the start of this one. Dusk fog fall off. Dusk fog start. It's a funny name for a variable. Dusk fog opacity. Dusk skylight intensity. Dusk skylight tint color. That actually got shorter, look at that. Stardome visibility. That guy. That says done. I wrote done, not dome. Done visibility. Okay, so I think I missed this guy right there. Yes, I put this in the wrong place. I should have done intensity. I will get that one next. Dusk sunlight intensity. And sunlight color. Okay, halfway done. A few minutes here. Sorry for the tedium. I really like getting to a point where I say this is done, I publish it, and we're onward. Fall off. Start. Opacity. Alright, we can do skylight intensity. So I was about to say I could play some core themed music, and then I realized that, I don't know, when I watch streams, I get certain people, there's certain streams I watch where I'm like, I really like this guy's music, and it's just kind of fun to listen while he's doing something else and appreciate his music. And certain times I'm listening to my own music, and then when they play their own, like if their videos or streams have music, I'm like annoyed that I can't listen to my music at the same time. So I'm not gonna do that unless you guys really want music. Skylight tint color. Right there, this one is white, right? Tint color, okay. Right, stardome visibility. Sunlight intensity. sunlight color. All right. 3/4 of the way. And then we hit play and find out that we've broken it horribly. Dawn fog intensity. So this is easier because there's only one place left that these things can go. Dawn fog fall. What would be really funny is if I copied one of these to the wrong line and it's like a very different scale. If I put, you know, 3000 as the fall off, and then suddenly it's going to look ridiculous. If I made a mistake, I hope it's that kind of mistake. 9. Color. Let's turn on visibility. Almost there. Sunlight intensity. And sunlight color. When I first started doing this, I thought that fewer values would be sufficient to make this look good. And then I looked at the actual skies and discovered that there's a lot of skill to do this. All right. Let us at least verify that I didn't destroy it horribly. Ha! Destroyed it horribly. 66. Bad argument. 66. Start done. I wrote done and did not fix it. That was the only one. Night. Smoothly looks like day. Smoothly looks like night. Perfect. All right. Cool. There are a lot of options we could add to this. I mentioned in my original ideas. There's clean up code. Start key. We could have an offset at the starting point. You know, if your clock is pretty large and you want it to be, you want it to always start at a certain time, we could do that. We could do a random time start, which is same deal. We could do real time as an option. We should probably add those because this is not going to change this part at all. It's just going to add a little bit at the top, and I'll make some more easy properties in the thing. You could also want the moon to go through phases. If we took moon smart property light direction, if we gave this a bias towards it instead of taking exactly the sun angle, if we took the sun angle times 1.2, let's say, what you're going to watch is that the moon is kind of full. Now it's less full. And if I picked a less round number, if I picked, you know, pi or something, or there'd be ways to make it change phases slowly. You know, if I picked like 1.01 or 1. Let's see, what's a 26th? 1.04. It might actually look kind of realistic and change phases every 20 times it goes around. So let's experiment with that a little bit. Let's make this really fast. 4 times faster than it was. Give this 1.04, I think is the right number we want. Foolish. Foolish. Can watch for a little bit. All good. Should only take 15 times to go from a full moon to a new moon. Doesn't seem to be happening though. So maybe I messed up the code a little bit. Yeah, this is just still full moon. Let's see. Really? I'm actually surprised. This feels correct. Oh no, okay, I see the problem here. This doesn't work. Because every day is going to be the exact same way. It's just going to snap a little bit in a funny way. Because the sun angle is always between 0 and... okay. Local day T. gonna put that variable back. And then here, instead of using sun angle, we're gonna use, but we don't even want it to mod 1. Day. Yeah. Put the mod 1 down here. That way day t just keeps increasing. That's what we want it to do. So we're going to do day t times 1.04. Times 360. And so previously we made this negative. We want to rotate the other way. I could do that again. I could just jam a negative sign in here. Or I could make this a, because z happens first. If we give it a 180 for z, it'll do the exact same thing. I hope. I don't know where viewport went. Oh, there's my viewport. That's new. So, new moon, slightly more moon, slightly more moon. That's cool. I think the way I'll set this up is a single Boolean custom property that says, do you want the moon to go through phases? Yes or no. And if you say no, it's always full. If you want it to be at a different phase, too bad. Maybe I'll just leave it like this. I think it's a lot cooler than having it always be full. You could argue that maybe they always want it to be a sliver. It's kind of hard to pick how they want it. I just realized the stars kind of snap out of existence. It's not too jarring. Yeah, it's pretty jarring. I don't know what happened to my viewport here. I've done something horrible. I'm going to save real quick and close this out and open it again and report this to the proper authorities. Okay. So we wanted, we'll leave that as it is. Moon cycles. We wanted options on these guys. So day length in minutes should be like 10 realistically, or 5, let's say, to start, as what people might want for this version actually is going to be pretty quick. I was looking ahead a little bit, and like, we spent the entire stream working on this guy, so we're not going to do non-Earth. This one we might be able to do today. This one, maybe a future stream would be interesting, but it would take a bunch of math. But adding these we can do right now. Start time. Float. Start time of day. This is going to need a custom property. No one's going to know what to put in here. Pick a value from 0 to 1. 0 means start at noon. 5 means dusk. 5 means midnight. 7.5 means dawn. Okay. And then Boolean random start time, that up here, and one more, use real time. All right, so these kind of, unfortunately you can't hide properties based on other properties, but whether or not to match the player's local time. All right, so we talked about a while ago, some of you probably weren't here then, that this should match between different clients. That was an important feature because if you have a game that one player is seeing night and one player is seeing the day, that's gonna feel kind of weird. And change gameplay a lot. So now we're getting into the territory where this might actually be a little more difficult, because real time, people live in different time zones. So if we just take their local clients real time, this isn't going to work. This is actually, we'll do a little bit of work in here in scripting, and we can make this work. And random start time, it's got to be the same for everyone. All right, so we're gonna do a little more advanced scripting, but I think this is important. This will make these features more useful. Add some tooltips to these. Whether or not to use the players, the server's local time. We're going to see if this works. The servers might be set on UTC, for example, in which case, no matter where they're physically placed, you get Greenwich Mean Time, which is not helpful. I believe that UTC generally matches that. I could be wrong. If not using real time, how long a day should be in a game day should be in real minutes. Whether you start the day at a random part of the cycle. If not using a random start time. So each of these depends on the previous one. If you check this, then none of these matter. If you don't check that and you check this, then this doesn't matter. If not using real time. Okay. So now we got a bunch of properties that our script cares about. Way up here, instead of just day length minutes, we got a bunch. Use real time, random start time, and start time. All right, so we need a server script. I don't think I have a good way to synchronize. I don't have a way to get the server's time zone. If the clients are different time zones, it's kind of a mess. I don't have a way, if we pick a random start time, there's probably something I could match it off of. Sometimes you can do some hackery, like spawn a template and grab its ID and use that to seed a generator or something. They're dirty tricks you can do. Networking a single value one time, very, very lightweight. So we're going to make a server script. And we're going to make this not a let's see, first make a group inside the template so that the group becomes part of the template. Then we de-instance and drag the group out and drag the template in. Now that's the root of the template. We're going to change the names of these things to match our new pattern. Note that things still do not have. Oh, the log had an offset. Look at that. I'm going to set everything to 0 maybe. Just to update a little bit. No, I just did something horrible. That's all right. All these properties should be on the root, which is now a different object. Where is my sun right now? Where's my sun? I believe. So it defaulted to plus X, right? I kind of want it to be like up in the sky just for the. No, plus X is over there. Whoops. Yep. Straight up. In fact, I'm going to snap to grid. Perfect. Just when you drag this thing in, you've got some sensible looking stuff in create mode. Alrighty, how we get to copy these over. Whoops. Alright, so component root is now that guy, different object. We have a client context, but we're also going to have day cycle controller server. Day cycle controller server. Which will be a pretty simple script. Often when I have a client server script, sometimes when I have a client server script, one of them is very lightweight, does one thing or two things. And this is going to take reference to that script. I thought about this a bunch months ago. If you want to have some networked properties, which is how we're going to transmit this data, so that it doesn't matter when you connect, you can always see what the value was set at long ago. If you want to follow that pattern, then I put them on the server scripts because the client script only exists in the client. The server script can't access it, can't set values. The server script is generally just out of a context and is on both. From the client's point of view, this is just an object that does nothing. You could put it in a server context, but then you just add one object and it doesn't change anything. So this is going to have a single value. How can I set this? So we need this to trigger both of the cases, or trigger not the right word. We need this to handle both the cases of using real time. It needs to have some data that tells the clients without constantly updating, without the server saying, okay, now it's 343, now it's 344, now it's 345. You need something that says, here is your start point. Which may actually be hard to do. We'll think about that a little bit. And maybe we want it to be... See, in WoW this worked, right? WoW had real time, and it worked because the servers... It just used the server time zones, but the servers were generally close to you. Then the servers actually advertised what time zone they were in. If you go look at the realm list, it would say this one's in Pacific and this one's in Mountain Time. Maybe remove that feature. Maybe the simpler approach is to not make this mess of complexity that I started down. People do like real time. That people will want that sort of feature. I argue against it from a design point of view because people who play at the same time all the time, they always are free for a couple hours in the morning or something, always get the same experience. And maybe the answer is just let people put in day length in 24 hours instead of 0, but it feels a little weird for it to be night during the day and day during the night if you happen to play at that time. Let me think about it a little more. How would we hook that up? And maybe we can debug this a little bit and actually get some real data to find out how this works. We can actually have a lot of power there. And the other thing is the random start time. It just needs to give I guess this is another subtlety to this. The way it currently works, we're calling time right here. Time is game time. If you pause, it doesn't continue. It's the time while the game is happening. That's useful, but it means that even if your day-night cycle is a minute, if you pause for a little bit, which you can only do in great mode, it pauses it. Real time is real time. You want to use a different function for that. And we have access to that, but it also adds a wrinkle to this. With the random start time, it can also, the server can say, I know how this lines up with the game time, and all I have to do is give you an offset. Say, hey, just add 0.37 to your value, and that's all you need. And just synchronizes that one piece of data with real time, not so much. Let's do a quick real time test. I'll make another map for this. And do some dirty hackery. Here's a map that has stuff in it. Let's kill our water. Those guys. All right. Let me show you things you should not do in core. Nope, not you. UI element. Text box. Time controller server. All right, so there are things, a small set of things that are almost always client only. They are things that are expensive to replicate and the server doesn't care about them at all. Things like audio, VFX, and UI. Turns out they still work when they're networked, and that often makes things simpler for tests and makes things run very poorly if you try to make a real game do that. I'm going to make some networked UI. In fact, I'm going to make multiple UIs. Dirty prototyping. So the text box is the parent of this thing, and we're just going to print the time. So this is going to be a server clock printer. I don't actually remember the name of the function. We're going to go down to the bottom. Let's go all the way built-in Lua functions. See reference manual. If we look in this list, you'll see there's an OS namespace with 4 different functions in it that all reference time, clock, date, diff time, and time. And if we look at the reference manual, we can find out what they do. Clock. Nope. We can find out that I can't type. Turns an approximation of the amount of seconds of CPU time used by the program. That's not what we need. Date returns a string or a table containing date and time formatted according to the unit format. That is super useful. Diff time, differences, we don't care about those. And time returns the current time when called that argument, or time representing the local date and time. We have fields. Time when year, month, and day may have fields hour, min, second. Fields do not need to be inside their valid range for the second. They didn't mean sense from the time specified by the other fields. So, turned by the number, which means depends on your system. Start time. All right. So we want this could be used for a program. It gives you a single number. I'm actually not quite sure what the argument even means. Maybe you're getting the time of. Maybe it takes it. You give it a time and it returns a number for you that you could do things with. So what we want is date. And what's great about this is it even makes us a string. It doesn't return a number, make us do math. What is a date? Does it have an example here? The time argument is present, and this is the time to be formatted. Okay, so we could give it a time. Otherwise, date format returns the current time, which is what we want. Format starts with blah, then the date is formatted in coordinated universal time. This is madness. Whereas the string is 13, then date returns a table with the following fields. And date returns the date as a string, formatted the same rules as the ISOC function stirf time. I don't know what that does. Reasonable date and time representation depends on the host system and on the current locale. This is kind of useful. This looks like it might be more complicated to actually add this to our day cycler, but we can just call os date and see what it prints. Textbox.text equals os.date. Bam. That's our whole script. What do we got? That appears to be the time. That's kind of amazing, actually. You made it multiple lines. All right. I'm going to add one thing to this. Dirty tricks. If script dot is client only, then blank else. All right. This is using the same script for both client and server. We're going to make two of these. Then we take this guy, duplicate him, and put this one in client context. Disable networking, that's fine. I realize I named my script server and now it's in both contexts. Sorry. Okay. That snapping is a little aggressive. Let's cut that down a little bit. Okay. That probably needs to be a little bit lower. So now I hit play. Boom. Client server, same time. Makes sense. Both running my computer. Bush game. Date. Test. Is there a test in here? Cyberpunk. This is a cyberpunk adventure. And it has a screenshot. It's that. And private. I don't need people to test this game that does nothing. Alright. This game page. It showed up on a different browser. That's fine. It's going to do this and then tell me, hey, are you sure? Probably. Yeah, that's fine. Boop. Look at that. That is not my time zone. Okay. So that is 1, 2, 3, 7 hours ahead of me. Is that Greenwich Mean Time? Let's ask Google. GMT. I expected it to just tell me what it was. It is currently 4:30 in Greenwich Mean Time. Yep, that is Greenwich Mean Time. Okay. That is not very helpful for us because people would want. It's kind of a strange question of what they would want. People would want their local time zone, but if each player has their own time zone and they're different time zones, it feels kind of weird. But if it wasn't the time zone they have anyway, you know, if it's wrong for everyone, that also feels kind of weird. I don't know the solution here. I'm gonna think about this more, come back to it. Not have the feature for now, is what we're gonna do. I think we will go back to our time of day and publish it without these extra complications. I'm actually gonna set it back to how it was. That guy, no server script. Drag you out of there, delete these, update. Does this function? Did I break it? 5 minutes. That seems like it would probably take about 5 minutes to go around. It's not using lots of these properties, so if I de-instance, use real time we're getting rid of, random start time we're getting rid of because that would take some other mess. We could do it. Daylight lengths and start time. Maybe, yeah, well, we could do start time. Maybe no one cares since tooltip is too long. Yeah, let's just kill it and leave it how it was. Alright, so we gotta modify the script again. It's gonna have a bunch of properties that aren't there. Oop. Okay, perfect. And change the tooltip of this, and then we're gonna publish. How long a game day should be in real minutes. Perfect. Template from this. Ooh, we got night this time. Oh, we didn't do the stars snapping into existence. I don't know why either. That surprised me a little bit. Suddenly, it's much slower to test. All right, star dome, star visibility. Star brightness. Man, that's really a big snap at the end. Space tint. Can I do something with space tint? Okay, we don't want to mess with that. Tool information. Create the basic star dome beyond the sky dome. Both makes at the same time. May be rotated and not recommended to scale. What is in advanced settings? Color gradient. What on earth do these do? They're not on earth. Twinkle. Rio? Of course. We were gonna go for realism, it's already there. Real stars. Alright, let's find Orion. This is too many stars. Brightness. Dim me down a little bit. There's Orion. Maybe? Yep. See the 3 in the middle? And 4 around? Maybe? Should be brighter. It's like the only constellation I can ever find. It could also be on the bottom half of the world, right? But we live in the northern hemisphere. Alright, I don't need to play with this too much. That's just funny to me. So, how do I make this? It's almost like I need to lerp. I need to non-lerp, but I need to do it in a non-linear fashion. I need to go from like 0.05 to 0 and take most of the time to go from there. In fact, I bet if I just change star dome visibility to 0.0, no, I can, you know what I can do? I can leave this at 1.0. I can add a 0 to these. Okay, and we're gonna fiddle these. Okay, great. Set the defaults. Make the day length 0.1 minutes again so I can test. Stars, where's my, stars gone. find my sun. There it is. Watch them. That seems better. Still pretty sudden. We could, okay, it seems like being in full screen when you... Maybe I was just in full screen before, maybe that was the problem. I didn't realize the editor was be stuck behind it. I didn't do anything horrible. Maybe I want this even smaller. Maybe I want like 0.02. Still kind of snappy. All right, we'll leave it there. That seems fine. And then back to 5, update template, and we're gonna publish it. Day cycle controller. Day cycle controller. This controls every part of the sky and comes with them, except I don't remember what that one was called. Okay. Publish. Try again. Day cycle controller. Control every part of the sky except the sky dome. It cycles between day and night, given period, and adjusts a variety of factors to look realistic. What else do I want to tell people about this? Seems fine. All right, so we're gonna hit the screenshot button. We're gonna hit preview, and we're gonna do a bunch of pausing. I got it in 5 minutes again. Shoot. Should have thought about this. Here's day. I just wait a little bit. I don't need dawn and dusk. I'm just going to get one in the middle of dusk and one at night. You know, like that first template I've made in a long time that actually has meaningful screenshots on it, and not just here's a, you know, like they're considering taking a screenshot of my script or something. It occurs to me that the night sky is still fairly blue. That's all right. We'll leave that for now. Okay. Perfect. I wonder if the night sky that we had. Stop the bot. Sweet. All right. I'm glad that worked. If our night sky just has a different sky dome, what if we delete this guy? Yep. Okay. So you cannot have two sky domes. Are there settings in here that we could have worked as well? Cloud, man, this is really complicated. Oh my god. Maybe. We'll worry about that at a later date, or someone else can play with it as they want. All right, let's look back at our list. All right, so we've abandoned these. That's fine. Semi-realistic moon and sun. We could add this as an option. This is not too hard to do. Basically, all we're changing is that the moon doesn't stay opposite of the sun. Instead, it just has its own different period, rather than trying to do the just make it go through phases and still be in the wrong position. We actually have it appear a day sometimes. We will do that, and we're going to take very realistic sky controller and jam this down in the worry about this later list. You. All right. So one extra option on here. Ooh. How do we set this? Is it moon only at night or real moon timings? Let's do that. Timing. If true, moon can be seen during the day and follows a roughly 28-day cycle. Sometimes, instead of always being opposite the sun, in either case, it will go through phases for flavor. Alright, so we start with that off. I think more people would want it to always be visible during the night. And then we will add a little bit to our script. Use real moon timing. I'm going to add a word to that. That sounds Boolean. Sounds better to me. Right. So the differences here are down here. Basically, these two are going to be slightly different. We don't need this, actually, yes. We don't need this hack to do the moon cycles. We'll do realistic moon cycles because they will get the cycle we want anyway. As rotation is not going to be sun angle plus 90, it's going to be entirely different. All right, so let's call this sun t actually. Local moon t equals time divided by 60 divided by, we couldn't actually just, oop. What did I find earlier? Moon orbital period, according to Google. Several different periods associated with this. So orbital mechanics are complicated. There's a question of like, how often do we view it going around the Earth versus how often does it go around the Earth? Right? It doesn't, from our point of view, it doesn't go around the Earth once every 28 days. It doesn't, move very slowly because we're spinning, but it is still going around once every 28 days, and therefore it's slightly off from the sun's rotation, right? So let's look at Wikipedia, which is going to have more detail than I possibly need, and it's going to have exactly the number I want. From our point of view, I hope it has exactly the number I want. Easily to search for this. This is complicated. I mentioned earlier in the stream that we could do a more realistic orbital mechanics thing and nerd out on it. It would be very complicated. Realistically, we just need a number that we don't need to do exactly right, and then the right people can complain at me at how bad this is. So basically, the moon takes, relative to the Earth, it takes 27.32 days to go around. And because we're on the Earth, we're going around once every 24 hours. So 24 hours, we see the moon do a full rotation minus 1/27th, or plus 1/27th, which is another way to get this wrong. This is really a minefield of getting wrong things. But that is close enough for what we want to do. it is 1/27th off, roughly. I'm going to use a calculator to get a number out of this. So 1 plus 1 divided by 27.32. Is that the number I just saw? Yes. Is 1.03, and if it's minus, it's 0.963. Let's figure out which one it is. I'm going to guess that the moon would be orbiting the same way the Earth is rotating. That seems very likely. One of the large theories of the origin of the moon is that a smaller planet just crashed into Earth billions of years ago and actually knocked a huge chunk off the Earth. We're actually in a very rare configuration of having one large moon, and it's been very helpful for Earth, actually. But you've noticed if you look out the solar system, Venus has no moons, Mars has 2 very tiny moons, Jupiter has like 25 or 50 moons or something. 1 is not the common number, and not that size. All right, so if we're spinning the same direction, then it's minus. So it's slightly less. Each time we spin around, it also went the same way a little bit. So we had to spin a little further to get it back, so it takes a little longer. So its t value is that times 0.9633. And we hope this is correct. And then local moon angle equals moon t. Same exact logic. This is where having a random start time could help. If you make your game have a 5-minute day cycle and it always starts at the same part of the cycle, it's going to feel kind of weird. Maybe we'll add that next time. Because it could be random for both. All right, so this is basically the same logic. For the moon, we can just do moon angle. In fact, we don't even care about this. We could put this right up in here. No, it needs to be opposite. We can just put it in there. In fact, okay. So the way I set this up before, a little awkward, but it needs to be this way, right? Our if statements expect that definition of it. Moon angle, just whatever. It's off by some phase. It's going to go through all the phases. And then light direction. So we want a thing that goes from the sun to the moon. All right. It's actually simpler than that. We don't care where the moon is. Because the moon, from the point of view of the sun, the moon is basically Earth. So we just need the sun's angle as the light direction. That makes this a lot easier. I think we just take this out. And use sun t here. However, if we use real moon timing, we don't want this always true. That we I'm going to put this up here so I don't have to an extra line, copy this around. All right, so this guy needed what was there before, which was, this is if you're not doing the real moon timing, we want to leave it how it was. If we're using the real moon timing, we want the moon angle and sun t without this at all. Don't care. It'll cycle itself. Hopefully that's the right value. Yeah, okay, that should be correct. And this, I lied about the previous state. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Do the same thing twice. Sure. All right. So now we're going to make this really short. Make it fly around. How much does that fly in? So this is always full because we're not using the real moon timing. We're supposed to be doing cycles, right? That's not always full. Okay. It's getting nearer to the new moon. Gone for quite a while. I bet that's realistic though. And if we do it the other way, they shouldn't always be opposites. It should become more apparent quickly. It does feel like they're always opposites though. It feels like I messed up something here. Yeah, they should be. This is definitely not working. I bet I copy paste something wrong. Moon set rotation, moon angle. Moon T is a different value. And I set use real moon timing. Oh, I see. I see what happened. It didn't actually do anything because I called the variable the wrong thing. Sun moon, sun moon, sun moon, sun moon. It's getting farther apart from each other. It's full when it's the farthest apart. Now the moon's right in front of the sun. You see that the right side of it is illuminated. And it becomes new right when they're on top of each other. Great. This is perfect. I'll be behind the sun in a second. A little bit. A little bit. Alright. They don't quite look how they do in real life. You generally can't see the moon when it's right next to the sun because the sun's really freaking bright. But, this works. Perfect. We're going to put that to 5 minutes and update. And republish. Perfect. That is a good place to be. Okay, we've got that done. We will start next time. We'll either do a little bit of something, maybe random start time. I might just throw that in right now if it's, or start fiddling with it. Still have a little bit of time. And then we'll start on something big. If people have suggestions, things they'd like to see, if you ever need help with Lua or want a piece for your game and you can't figure out how to make it, feel free to ask. I will be happy to make things. But in the meantime, I'm either going to start building a game, or more realistically, I'm going to start working on this talent selector. I expect this will take me 2 or 3 streams. It's a pretty big thing. It has to read through a large structure in the hierarchy. It has to read a whole bunch of values in. It has to construct a bunch of UI based on that. It has to have a way to show and hide the UI and players to interact with it. You have to be able to click on things and spend your levels. It's a big undertaking. I've already done a tiny amount of work. I planned out and designed it and spent maybe an hour working on it and said, wow, this is a lot. But I would really like that. It would be very powerful for the games that need it. So that will be what I do next. Let's look at random start times. Random start time actually needs a network pattern I had before, which is a shame because this is a client context and I have to move things. It's only got 2 properties now, so this is a little easier. So we're gonna make that group again. Put it in here and update the template. De-instance the template. Put it out here. Put it in there. Change the names. Client context. Day length minutes. Day length minutes. And what did I call that bool? Use moon real timing. Probably should have copy pasted. Okay. One thing I tend to do with official components that I have not done here is give some sort of useful checks of their values and report and give useful warnings if they give crazy numbers. If you put a negative time in here, I don't know what it's going to do. It might be crazy. Didn't test it. That doesn't make sense. Why would you do that anyway? Okay, so this needs reference to this now, and it needs the tooltips. So the way I do this is I set tooltip, copy, set tooltip, paste. I have, unfortunately, done this in cases with a lot more things, but in the meantime, that works. Okay, this doesn't need its properties at all. We still have our day controller server script that has nothing in it. Goes up here, this needs a reference to it. Server script, and we're going to say, how do we share this number? An offset, a random seed. What is the API? We have this Random stream. Okay. So this is an object that you can use to synchronize random numbers. It's very useful for procedurally generated worlds. You can give it an integer and then get a number over and over again, and you'll get a bunch of random numbers. They're purely random, as pseudo as computer random is. But if you then do the same thing again with the same integer, you'll get exactly the same numbers out. So what you can do is I can set the seed as this networked property, and each client and server can call get your number and get the exact same number. And if you join very late in a game, you can simply look at the seed that's shared to you as a network property, call get number, and use that to start your as your offset. That being said, this is an extra layer of random for no reason. All we need is the number they gave you. It's not like you gain some knowledge by knowing what number it was shared there or anything like that. All you need to know is where do we start this thing. And in the case of our cycle, so the client scripts already have time. Time is a number from 0 to infinity. All they need to know is an offset into this number. And I'm going to say the way I'm going to set this up is it's going to be an offset in units of sun t. Actually, no, I need it to be in moon t as well. And these are two just crazy numbers. Basically, I want it to be equally likely to be any part of the moon cycle, not just any part of the first day, and the moon always happens to be lined up with it when you start. And to do that, since this is just not at all a round number, there's no nice even multiple, I'm just going to take a big number and say, this is how much you add to your t, and hope it's big enough. You know, we'll do it in units of sun t, but it will have to be so that if you have a longer day or a smaller day, it works out the same way, but it's something between 0 and, you know, a million. Just add that on, and there you go. We're going to call this offset. That's going to be a float. Time offset. And we're going to enable property networking. And this script is going to be super simple. Script set networked custom property time offset math.random times a million. Bam. Big old number. In fact, why multiply by a million? It's a float. Just give it a random number. That's all we need. All right. This guy, do that on script. We have a new property on our script itself, right there. Server script. The question is, should I even expose this as an option? I don't think so, because we got rid of the option where they can pick the start time, because I thought that was confusing, in which case the random should be the default behavior. If you always want to start at the same time, you'd want to choose when you start, in which case, yeah, maybe we have that option back in, or maybe they just go dig into the script and look at it a little bit. It's not too hard to change what this does to not be random and just give it 3 or something, you know, or just delete the script entirely, or, you know, delete the text value, delete the code in the script entirely and put a number here. So server script, and when we're starting, right here. In fact, we can just save it. All right, so we have no guarantee this is run yet. Realistically, the server script's always going to run before the client scripts. And when you connect to a server, the server script it has to be networked. That's important. Networking. When you connect to the server, it will replicate this down with the value. You can just read it the first frame, but I don't want to do that because local preview may not work, and you want to be careful about how you use, you know, you're robust to all sorts of configurations. So you put a Git custom property right in the middle of your thing. Time offset. When I, down the road, make a full game, this pattern will be common, and it's a little unwieldy to write this in the middle of things, so I'll probably make a helper function for this. So we're gonna have this right here, time offset. Okay, this is some random offset. It's great. We need it to be in multiply by some big bogus number. We're just gonna put it right in here because no one should change this. It just has to be big enough that it's pretty equally likely to be any part of the cycle. This is a common pattern. For example, if you are using a somewhat lower level language and you want a random number, you call random or rand or whatever, and it often gives you a number between 0 and something, an integer. I've seen it be the 16-bit integer limit, so 65,535. or the 32-bit limit, something around 4 billion. But either way, if you say I want a number from 0 to 37, you just take that number and modulate it by 37. And if it's 0 through 37, that's what you get, or 36. If it's the next one's over, it's what you get. And if you like, in a very simple case, let's say you had a function that gave you a number from 0 to 50 and you wanted a number from 0 to 35. You're not going to have an even probability. You would have, when you do the modulus operation, you have, a big chunk of it goes to 0 to 35, and then the top chunk goes down to 0 to 15, and so those numbers are twice as likely as the numbers higher. If you have a big enough number, if your number is a billion instead of 100, some of your numbers are going to be ever so slightly more likely than others. Who cares? This is usually how these are implemented. As long as your number is big enough, it doesn't matter. So we're going to take the 0 to 1, multiply by a huge number, and add it into one of these. This guy right here. Sun T mod 1. So we haven't modded 1 yet. That's fine. Let's just give it 1,000. That's probably big enough. We don't want it to go too big and lose some precision or overflow something. But just take some large number, stick it in there. This is always the same, it's never going to change after the first frame. And so when I hit play, if you're watching very carefully, the very first frame might come in here and do something different and then snap to something else, but that hopefully isn't too noticeable. And that would only be in single player preview. And then we just have random start times. That being said, this is hard to test in single player preview because, like I said before, time starts when the editor is open, not when, that's a shame. So we have the sun directly overhead. Time starts when the editor is open, not when the previous sessions are open. So sun directly overhead, bam, night. Moon's going down. Night again. Moon's coming up. All right, these seem pretty random. If I, just to test, if I duplicate this line, coming out this, I believe we will get the same behavior several times in a row. All right, sun's coming up. Sun's coming up. Sun's coming up. Looks the same. Okay. So now we have a random start time. We've got, you can use the real moon timing or the not real moon timing. You can use, timing might be the wrong word, but that's fine, we'll leave it there. And you can set the time of the day. And if you go into the script, this is the part that people are going to come in and say, this is insufficient and, want to set these to different better values. They're going to want to add more things to this, change the sky dome properties, maybe some advanced properties. That's cool, I look forward to it. For now, it looked pretty good to me. I'll publish this one last time, now with the new random start time. And then I'm going to end the stream for the night. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that next time I don't scare too many people off. If there are things people would like to see, I would like to know what would be most intriguing or interesting or helpful. I would love everyone to be building all sorts of interesting things with Core and having fun. There are many games I have seen and had a lot of fun with. But thank you for joining me.